Okay, it's live. We have 26 attendees so far.
46.
But yeah, going up every second, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the link worked.
So why can't we see our colleagues?
I have a list of people who I'm going to start promoting to panelists. That's okay, Jocelyn?
Oh, terrific. Yeah, understood. Sorry.
That's all right. That's what I was emailing you about last week. Just check is what you
Yeah.
wanted. So all good. Don't worry. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Don't be silly. It's all right.
Jocelyn, before we start, David, do you want to just give your quick intro that you give to all these Zoom meetings?
Oh, fine. Yes, I can do that. I need to find it. So
just wait a second as people join.
My phone.
I'm just getting it up while people are joining.
Okay.
So good evening, everyone who's joining us. If there has been some, sorry for the sort of slight delay in starting to run, we had a few technical problems, which is always the way of things. Can you just make sure that you've got the right name in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and some of it's been a bit messed up. Just welcome to this joint LLF of the Histon Road and Milton Road LLFs. I'm David Charlesworth. I'm the comms manager here, and joined by Paul van der Berg, who's the project manager, and Tom on technical support from the GCP team. The objective of this meeting is for you to hear more about both the Histon Road and Milton Road projects. We're going to be chaired by the relevant chairs at the relevant point. Obviously, because of COVID and the regulations surrounding public health measures, we're not doing a face-to-face meeting. So this is being hosted by a Zoom webinar platform. But please remember that normal rules of behaviour apply. Everyone's reminded that inappropriate conduct or disruptive behaviour may result in you being excluded from the event. We have technical assistance on hand to conduct the event, but please do remember that everyone is joining the event from their own homes, and unavoidable technical issues, as we've already had, may arise in relation to broadband connection and home IT setup. If I could ask, remember everyone to please mute their microphones when they're not speaking, and wait to be invited to unmute their microphones. There'll be opportunities for questions once we've had the presentations, and we want to get through everyone's questions. But I'm sure everyone appreciate, over the last year we've all got used to this way of working. There may be some teething problems, but with a little patience and forbearance, I'm sure we can have a productive event tonight.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's Beiju or Carla who's down as me. Oh, good.
Okay.
Literally just rectifying it then. Thank you, Jazz.
Thanks, Carla.
I've just got it. Great minds.
Okay, yeah,
Sorry about that.
Can I just
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Thanks, David, for that.
Yeah, and can I just stress the point that David made, that please can you put yourself on mute when you're not speaking, because otherwise we're going to get lots of feedback and it'll be very difficult to pick up people's comments and questions. I'm not quite sure, David, what facility we're using in order to indicate a Q&A when we've had a report from Paul van der Berg on the Histon Road works at the moment. Are we using a hand in the chat or?
Yeah, there's two formats. You can either put a little hand up, which appears in the corner of your thing, and or put questions in the chat, and we'll get through everybody.
Okay, and if you can I'll keep an eye on the hand going up, and perhaps David, if you keep an eye on the chat, because it's difficult to put up both at the same time.
Yeah,
so we can have we'll have a Q&A on the Histon Road project and the work so far after the project officer Paul van der Berg given a report. I don't think I need to say any more at this point, except to hand over to Paul to give his report on how Histon Road is progressing. So, Paul.
Just before you do, there's a chat from Lillian saying she's trying to get on, and as it's her road, as it were, could someone try and engage her, please?
Oh yes, that'll be Lillian Rundblad, our vice chair. So it's very important indeed that Lillian joins us. I don't know if anyone can admit her or sort out whatever technical issues there are that's preventing
Lillian's in now. Do we need her being able to talk? I'm happy to promote her to panelist. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would probably be helpful.
There we go. She should be able to now.
Greg Chadwick is also asking
Yeah.
Yeah, Jamie DL and Greg Chadwick should also be.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going through the list.
Oh, sorry.
The
Yeah.
panelists. So apologies to those who are listening who should be panelists. I will get to you, and if you haven't been got to yet, I'll happy for you to comment and I'll promote you as soon as I can. Sorry about that. It's my fault. It's just taking a bit of time.
Yeah. There are some other people, but I'm assuming we're going to people like Laurie Coppersmith. Are they supposed to be a panelist, or are they just a member of the public?
Okay, can I suggest that if there are a few technical issues and people need to be invited in as and when that David and others can help with that.
Yeah.
We are already at 6:15. We ought to make a start really. I have another meeting at 7:30, but hopefully we'll be done with the Histon Road report back and question and answers, and then we can move on to Milton Road. That part of the meeting, Jocelyn Scott, as chair of the Milton Road LLF, will be dealing with. Okay, we will move on then, Paul, if you can give your report back on Histon Road and the progress there.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I'm going to keep it fairly brief. I've just got a bit of a presentation for both Histon Road and Milton Road. The Histon Road has just really got a few pictures and then a programme update, and then the majority is kind of time to take questions. So let me just share my screen. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining the LLF meeting. So my name is Paul van der Balk. I'm the project manager for the GCP, currently working on Histon Road, which is under construction, and Milton Road, which we're just about getting there with the detailed design. So in terms of Histon Road, anyone who's been out and around and about will have noticed we've got extensive works going on to completely remodel the road, and we've had an inbound closure on now since last year in order to get the works done. We've split the work up into 4 phases. So the first phase is around the Victoria Huntingdon Road junction. The second phase is between that junction up to the Gilbert Road crossroads. The crossroads itself is another phase, and then phase D, the final phase, is between Gilbert Road and King's Hedges. So the work is progressing well. We started on phase A. We've got some photos. So the photo in the top corner shows some of the works we've done at phase A, mainly enhancing the kind of the cycling infrastructure around the junction and slightly remodeling how the junction works. We've got new signals, new surfacing, and the work generally went okay there. We obviously got hit by, while we were working on this phase, the pandemic kind of kicked in last March. So we had to leave the site for 7 weeks, came back on site, and kind of this phase got a little bit delayed as a result of that. In the meantime, the County Council also asked us to consider resurfacing the footpaths further outside of our project scope. So we've also been kind of doing the design work for that resurfacing, because it's not just, in some areas it's slightly complicated, and we're looking to get all of those footpaths now, including the phase A footpaths, resurfaced in the next few weeks. The second photo, top right, shows some of the combined curb and drainage that we've been putting in to try and alleviate kind of the linear puddles that you get along Histon Road due to the fact that it's very flat longitudinally. And the bottom right photo shows the living fence that we've put in. We're keeping an eye on this because it has browned off a little bit since planting, but I'm told by the landscapers, whom I keep asking whether it's okay, and they say it will green up in the spring. So I'm taking their word for it for now. Another example, so this is a ramp that we put in. There's a couple of slight issues with this ramp in terms of the fact that if cars go over it too fast, they do tend to strike it. So we're just currently looking at whether we can fix that problem. But these kind of ramps will be placed at every side road, and there's another one that's already been put in further up. think it's Gilbert Close, which is a good example of kind of a big improvement that we've made for pedestrians along the road. We've had quite a few challenges in terms of building it. These pictures all show some of the maze of services that we find under the ground. And some of the challenges relate to the fact that all of the service records that we have, which we also backed up with some GPR surveys and trial holes, we still find that some of the services are not where we expect them to. So this has led us to encounter a few areas where we've had to do additional diversion works, which has obviously held us up a little bit in places, and also presented some quite significant challenges in some areas. One thing that I am quite pleased about is that we managed to, in the end, to work with City Fibre and grant a backbone network. So we have come to an agreement whereby we are installing their services for them at the same time as we're doing all of the other work. So that hopefully means that they don't have to come back at all and disrupt any of the works we've done. Some of the other challenges, we've obviously got a challenge with the traffic management. It's quite a narrow highway width that we're working within. And we've committed also to ensure that we keep the inbound cycling and the outbound cycling movement intact while we have the outbound traffic as well. And in some areas that's caused a slight issue. But I think I'm fairly pleased with the way that the gangs up and down the road of managing things. And kind of when I visit the site from time to time, probably once a week or twice a week, I keep an eye out to make sure that if there's any improvements that we need, any safety issues, and of also kind of working with the gangs to encourage them to pay attention to kind of these kind of things. Other challenges we've come across, we've had some areas where we've encountered substandard conditions of the existing roads and paths. So we found kind of the foundations of the existing road are not what you would expect. So this has involved us needing to reconstruct a few areas all the way down to the foundation levels. We've also encountered quite a bit of contamination. So in phase A, a lot of the materials that we had to take off site were contaminated with kind of petroleum products, probably as a result of being in the vicinity of the former fuel station that was there, located there. And we've had other small issues, such as asbestos and kind of other types of contaminants that we've found in the soils, in the verges, and also in the asphalt that we've had to take away, which has resulted in a bit of additional cost here and there. But also in the case of asbestos, we have to get a special gang to come in, so that involves a bit of extra work. And as I said, COVID-19 has presented its own challenge. Obviously, we lost 7 weeks at the start of the project, but I'm hoping we gained those 7 weeks back in some ways by bringing forward the construction of phases B and D in advance of completing phase A, because we originally planned to fully complete phase A first. But what we did is we overlapped all of the phases to try and make use of kind of the lower traffic volumes that we were experiencing at the time, and we've kind of continued to experience as the various lockdowns have extended. So yeah, while COVID has presented some challenges, I think we've mitigated a lot of those, the issues that it's caused. The gangs on site are working in kind of bubbles, so if we get any problems, we don't have to close the whole site down. And we've got a bit of some additional welfare units, etc., so that when they do take breaks or use the facilities, they can kind of have got a bigger area and they're not all using the same facilities. So in many ways, we've been able to mitigate that, and we haven't had any serious issue caused by the pandemic. So in terms of the programme, as I mentioned a bit earlier, we've got the remaining footway works to be all the surfacing works to be completed by the end of March in phase A, and we need also to connect or to cut a couple of loops into the carriageway so that we can fully commission the signals with all the sensors. So at the moment, the signals are working without any sensors, which is why there's sometimes a slight delay, you know, before the signal goes green. Phase B, I'm told by Skanska that they are aiming to have the section between Victoria Road and approximately Merkett's Garage completely resurfaced and complete by the end of April. And there's also a couple of loops that need to be cut into the carriageway there for the signals. And then the remainder of phase B, so from Merkett's Garage, approximate location up to Gilbert Road, the target is to have that complete by the end of May. Following the completion of phase B, they're looking to start work on the junction at Gilbert Warwick Road. So they'll commence that in May, and hopefully the works there should take approximately 8 to 10 weeks. And while we're completing the works there, obviously they'll be continuing their works on phase D, which is kind of the major part of this project in terms of the work. We've almost completed much of the civils work has been completed on the east side of phase D. There's a section in the middle of phase D that we're still working on, where we're still working on the east side, but we're progressing well with the footpath there. And we've got some highway carriageway construction that's underway, but we hope to complete that side of the road by the end of May. And then, as anyone who's been there will see on the west side, we've done a lot of work to the north on the west side and almost completed the footpaths to the north. We're currently working on service diversions in the centre of the phase, and we're kind of working southwards on that side of the road. So that's the kind of programme we're still looking to complete by September. That may go into early October, depending on whether or not we hit any other snags or issues with service diversions, etc. But we're I'm pleased with the progress that's been made, given some of the challenges that we've had, in particular the COVID challenge and some of the challenges that have been presented by the utilities and the utility diversions that we've had to do. So, Mike, I think that's enough from me, and happy to take some questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. I've noticed that in terms of our participants, we have, I think, 25 panelists, members of the LLF, but a total of 109 participants, I think, with the webinar. So I assume I won't be able to see any raised hands from those outside the panelists. So in terms of questions from the public, for want of a better word at the moment, then I think, David, are you able to monitor the questions coming through from the webinar? Is that right?
Yeah, I can do that for you, Mike. Do you want me to shall I start reading the questions out? Is that the best way forward?
Yeah, first of all, shall I just take, there's a couple of blue hands up from...
Right, if you take the blue hands first, and then I'll start.
Councillors on the as part of the LLF panel, and so I'll take those first. I've got Councillor Shield and then Councillor Manning. So, Councillor Shield.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Paul. It's just a small thing. I had a complaint from a gentleman who said that he'd not received a letter or any communication about the pavement in front of his house being the next chunk to get works happening to it. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions here, because there was only one complaint of this sort. So I'm thinking that letters did go out to, or communications were made to the people living along Histon Road, but the gentleman said that basically he came home one night only to find that the access was blocked, and the same for his partner. Now, I think, benefit of the doubt, I imagine that it's just that for some reason the letter to that house went astray or something happened, and these things do happen. But Paul, I'd be grateful if you just confirm that everyone on Histon Road was told, or people are being told when, if access to their property is going to be obstructed by the works. Obviously it's unavoidable for that period, but are we communicating? I'm just sort of mindful that this gentleman's kind of wondering what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Short. And Paul, before you answer that, shall we just take the other question from those on the panel, which is from Councillor Manning, and then we can go on to questions from the attendees. So, Councillor Manning, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just a simple one. You mentioned the business about this ramp and cars hitting it or something when they go too fast. I mean, I thought part of the purpose is to stop cars from going too fast. So is that, in what sense is that wrong? Is it because that's not the intention, or is it because cars can't get out slowly? Because I would have thought we want cars to slow down there. So.
Okay, thanks. And we've got a third question. We'll just take that as well. And then I am mindful that we've got lots of residents or members of the public who want to ask questions to you. So Councillor Payne, and then we'll get Paul to answer those 3 questions and then go on to the other attendees.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for that, Paul. Can I just ask 2 questions? One again is about the raised table going into Canterbury Street. Also, just noticing the top of it, it's got a lot of cracks in very, very quickly. I don't know if that's from what you say of the cars hitting it very quickly, but do we know if as that is looked at again, is it able to prevent it from cracking? Is it a surfacing problem? Do we know what's causing that? And then secondly, something which is actually working, I think is working really well from the feedback I've had, is the 20-mile-per-hour limits as it comes up to Huntingdon Road. And I know the plan is that is to be temporary just during the works. Is there any possibility of that being something to remain? And do you know what the general process for that would be? Would there be any implications of that? Because it is much better, I think, with it really slowing down as it comes up to that complicated junction.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Payne. Have you got a note of all those questions, Paul? I've jotted them down. Are you okay with answering the 3?
I can go, it's fine, I remember. So Patrick, in general, there should be communications if access is blocked, then there should be communications prior to the access being blocked by the homeowner. So and I know that these communications are happening because the guys on site tell me, first of all, that they give an account of who they've talked to and whatever. And I know that the CLO, the Community Liaison Officer, does send out letters when there's kind of specific things that need to be communicated to residents. So I can double check again, but that process is in place. It should be happening. So I can only apologise if this gentleman didn't receive a communication. Regarding the raised table, so yes, we do want it to slow people down, and the evidence suggests that it is slowing people down, which is good. However, we don't want it to get damaged straight, as soon as we install it. So there has to be a balance between slowing people down and making sure that there's enough clearance so that people don't hit it. In the case of this one, we've taken quite a bit of video and cars can pass over it. But the evidence shows that there are some cars striking it, and those strikes have actually cracked some of the bricks. So we are going to address it. We're going to raise the front edge of it, which slightly changes the geometry and should ensure that we still have the ramp. The ramp stays as steep, the same gradient as it currently is on the Canterbury Street side, but the exit ramp onto Histon Road is slightly raised at the front to change the geometry to reduce the risk of any strikes if people do go over it a bit faster than they should, and also to make sure that it doesn't get destroyed, within a few months of it being installed. And then the 20-mile-an-hour. So it's funny they should mention that, but the designers and I have actually been discussing 20-mile-an-hour zone for that southern end of Histon Road in the last few weeks. However, it's not something that was specifically part of the scheme. So we need to go through the proper process if we are going to consider it properly. And so I've taken some advice on this, because it's something that we are, when I say we've considered it, we've seriously considered it, partly based on what's been said to us through the LLF, and also partly a design issue. So I think what I've been told we should do is that we should complete the section, perhaps complete the scheme, and when we have completed it, we then need to tell the board that the road is completed, and that we are then going to review that particular section and the speed limit in that section, with the view to, if the board agree, and I'll obviously be talking to the county council because I need some buy-in from the county council as well. If there's general agreement, we will then review it and go through the traffic regulation order process. So I'm not promising a 20-mile-an-hour zone, but what I'm saying is that when that part of the scheme is complete, we will definitely be reviewing that.
Okay, thanks so much, Paul. I think the question about the ramp and the raised table, are they one and the same? Are we talking about?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, okay.
Got on mute, Mike.
Lillian Runblad has her hand up. She's indicating she'd like to ask something.
Oh, okay, yeah, go on, carry on then, Lillian.
You'll have to unmute, Lillian. You're on mute.
Yes, I had sent in 3 questions here, and one of those have been attended to now regarding the 20 miles per hour. Do you wish me to share it on, or shall we consider that as being a definite promise?
I think that's been addressed, Lillian. Yeah, clearly,
Yeah.
Paul is saying
Okay.
it's going to be looked at seriously later on.
Yeah.
And we ought to get on to questions.
Yeah.
On
Can I
yeah. Okay.
Can I share the screen then for the second question I have about the safety for school children? You have all received my questions.
Okay. Do you want to share that then? I would like to get on to questions from the public who are joined.
Excuse me?
We have about 80 odd, nearly 90 members of the public. I'd just like to make sure we get on to their questions.
Well, okay, I'll just read it up for you then. The safe space, and it's of course very good that presently that's 20 mile per hour speed limit. There are initial problems with cars driving in the wrong direction, and they keep going on. I have had several complaints recently.
Yeah.
And
we can't actually see your questions at the moment, Lillian.
It didn't work. It said experience. It didn't work when I pressed the share screen. Came up some other things. I lost all of you at the moment.
What could you jot down the gist of your questions in the chat, and we can come back to those. And in the meantime, we can take some questions from the public who are attending. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I have to get back to the meeting too. Okay, stop sharing. I'm pressing that one. Hope it works. Or
while you're doing that,
I have the question here. That's the one.
Okay.
Okay, here we are. And I like to look at the picture I have on. So it has been many complaints have been voiced by the residents. They're feeling unsafe, not just the children. They're crisscrossing the road due to park diggers and machinery in both cycle lanes, as well as cyclists meeting oncoming traffic. So today was the day when the school started. So I asked for the GCP to be extra cautionary provisions for our school children, especially at junctions leading to schools like Mayfield Primary, Arbor Primary, St. Luke's and Chesterton Secondary, and all along Histon Road. It is dangerous, and this is a very calm day, a Sunday afternoon, without any working vehicles or anything like that, but you can just imagine what it looks like during a working day. This afternoon, I visited this Gilbert Junction, and it was very quiet. There was no work going on as far as construction today. So I have pictures from the children managing crossing the Gilbert Junction fairly good. So will you improve it more when the vehicles come back? Because that is the way they're crisscrossing around the road. It's very difficult to follow it.
Okay, thanks, Lillian. And did you say you had another question? Can you just quickly go over your other question, or should we just address that?
I can take it there too. That is actually referring to Milton Road. So maybe we should save it from Milton Road. It is regarding safeguarding Histon Road.
We'll leave that till we get to Milton Road. So Paul, can you just quickly respond on the safety or any additional measures, especially regarding to children back at school? I think Mayfield School is obviously the main issue in terms of using that Gilbert Road junction.
Yes. Oh, not only Gilbert Road, there are other junctions as well.
Sure,
St. Luke's is not using Gilbert Road. St. Luke's goes by the cemetery, crisscrossing around there, and Linden Close.
Okay, thanks, Liam. Paul?
So yeah, the safety on the site is of paramount importance, and I know that from discussions with Skanska, they have been concerned, and they have put a lot of effort into trying to address some of the problems that we've been experiencing. Lillian's pointed out a couple of those. So we do have traffic going the wrong way down Histon Road, and an example that we had right at the start was a motorcyclist deciding it would be a good idea to pull a wheelie all the way from the Gilbert Junction down to the co-op, going the wrong way down our one-way closure. So we have that to contend with. It's almost impossible to completely eradicate that kind of behaviour, but where we can, I know that the guys on site and the project managers who are kind of walking up and down the road, the site supervisor, sorry, kind of will talk to people if they can, and if we can, we will film that behaviour and pass on kind of number plates to the police. So we have done that in the past. More recently, as been pointed out, we've implemented the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And that is partly in relation to the fact that we do recognise that, I mean, previously when the inbound closure was on and we were working, all the work was on one side of the road, it was quite easy to follow. Since we've switched sides of the road, we're now working on both sides. That does add a bit of complication to the site.
It's terrible.
Hopefully that will soon be finished and we'll be back on one side of the road, which will alleviate some of those problems again. So in the meantime, we've implemented the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and we also have a speed monitoring van on site from time to time. We had it there a couple of weeks ago. We clocked 500 vehicles in the week exceeding the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. We've sent all of their details to the police. Not sure how the police will handle that, but whether they prosecute the first time. But the data that we've sent them is of quality for the police to prosecute. So we will have that van coming back, because it's not really acceptable that people are speeding through the site. When I say speeding, we've had people going there through the site at 60 to 70 miles an hour.
2 days ago, we had speeders at about 7 or 8 o'clock in the afternoon on Histon Road, going all the way from the top to the bottom on the road.
We're trying to see what we can do to stop it. With cyclists, we also have an issue. The majority of cyclists are behaving fairly sensibly through the site, but we do have cyclists who just fly through the direction and seem to take no care about their own life, let alone kind of anyone around them. So we do have that issue, and we also have the issue where unfortunately the workers on the site suffer quite a bit of abuse from some of those cyclists. So it's another issue that we have, kind of a consequence of our original promise to keep kind of the road open in both ways for cyclists. And we always knew it would be slightly difficult to manage, but so far I think the team have managed it quite well. The guys on site are all fully aware, and I mean, I spent quite a lot of time in the early days getting them in the mindset that they need to be aware of kind of the road users and be aware of particularly cyclists and pedestrians and help them get past any obstacles. And I think in general, the workers have been pretty good and they've taken a lot of that on board.
It has been a friendly talk between the workers and the residents. So many of them have been very good.
Lillian, can I stop you there?
Yes.
Because I don't know what time we're intending to go on to Milton Road. That is supposed to be the more substantial part of the meeting in many respects. I was guessing that maybe at about 7 o'clock, depending on what the finish time is intended to be.
Yeah, yes, Mike.
Yeah, that would give us only about 15 minutes for some questions from the public who are attending. I'm sorry to the other panelists. I do think we ought to get some questions in from the public who are attending. And David, I think you were going to read out some of the questions.
So I'm just going to take them in the order that they were placed. So people who, so the first one's from Martin Willits, and it's what can be done straight away to reduce the additional traffic on Stretton Avenue, and more specifically the lorries. Several households on the roads have reported their houses are shaken by passing lorries, which is of great concern to them. It's the mid-sized lorries that seem to be the problem. I recognise that the Histon Road works are due to be completed summer, but potential damaging and disruption is happening now and every day. And that's from Martin Willits.
Yeah.
Could I just intervene? Oh, sorry.
Should we take a group of 3 questions, David? Have you got a couple more then?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. Paul, please, from Gaynor Mears. Paul, please can you confirm when the footpath actually on Victoria Road up to Hunting Road will be resurfaced? It's very dangerous, especially opposite 222 Victoria Road. And then a question from Sheila Watts. The camber of the road combined with the weight of kneeling buses is resulting in major potholes at every bus stop. Will you be able to resolve this? And then sort of how will the new ramps at Carisbrook Road mesh with the building work and the heavy traffic that has started to the Swiss Laundry old site? And again, just is there anything else you can do on the potholes? They're say dangerous to cyclists. So those are 3 questions.
Okay, thanks, David. So have you got all those 3, Paul? Do you want to respond?
Remind me first, David. Just jog memory.
The first one was about lorries going down Stretton Avenue.
Okay, so we have. I've asked the traffic management team at the County Council whether we can do anything. I don't have support to put any road narrowing on Stretton Avenue to eradicate that issue. So what we have done is we've talked to all of the businesses on Histon Road, because I'm aware that a couple of those lorries, there's not that many lorries, but there's a few lorries and residents do notice them. A few of those lorries are actually making have been making deliveries to the businesses on Histon Road. So what we can do is remind those businesses to ensure that their lorries actually follow the main diversion route and don't use those side roads, which are not really appropriate for heavy goods vehicles.
Okay, thanks. And then there was a question about Victoria Road footpaths.
So as I mentioned before, all the footpaths in that whole area should be complete in the next few weeks. So I said the end of March. That's what the construction team tell me is their current programme. Okay, I can't promise it, but that's the programme and that's what we aim to achieve.
Okay, thanks. And then there was a question about the camber, I think, and potholes.
In terms of the potholes, so some of the holes will be a result of replacing curbs, and the contractors are supposed to level that off somewhat. I'm aware that in one place they left it for a while, but we pressed them pretty hard to make sure it got filled. In terms of the camber should be addressed by the scheme. So one of the current issues with Histon Road is the steep camber. That is especially apparent in the current cycle lanes. The project aims to address that and to ensure that the camber is within more tolerable levels across the entire scheme.
Thanks, Paul. Shall we take another 3 questions, David, that you've got on?
Yeah, sure. So the next one is, again, there's a question here about the impact on traffic levels on Arbury Road, saying that, again, they're suffering from heavy lorries speeding day and night, shaking the homes. And saying that the signs are ineffective. And is there any other mitigation things you can do to stop the traffic going down Arbury Road at the moment? Then a straightforward question, which is what is meant by loops cutting the carriageway from your presentation, Paul? And then the pedestrian path between Roseford Road and Gilbert Road is very narrow in places and will not allow buggies, wheelchairs or people walking 2 abreast. So Histon Road is a very busy road and this will be incredibly hazardous. So basically a question about the size of the footpath between Roseford Road and Gilbert Road being too narrow.
Okay, thanks, David. Have you got all those, Paul, or shall I?
Yeah, so the loops, they're basically, if you look at any junction before the signals, there's basically some lines cutting the road and they are just sensors. And the technical word they use are loops, sensor loops. But basically they just, after the carriageway is complete, they cut those into the road and connect them all up. In terms of Arbury Road, so obviously the official diversion route is via the A14 and Milton Road, and that's where the sign should point to. Local people use the local roads through local knowledge, and as such, signs are fairly ineffective for local people. I think we've done traffic monitoring. We have our site representatives travelling around. I've travelled around that area and I purposely travel through some of the non-diversion areas when I'm kind of going to the site, either on my bike or driving through sometimes. We don't think that there is a significant issue with traffic levels in that area or within the side roads enough to warrant, stronger measures such as blocking the whole area up, and the only way that you can completely eliminate any traffic from entering an area is to completely, to create a blockage. But then the impact of that has a major impact on a lot of other people, and so you have to arrive at a balance between diverting most of the traffic and accepting there will be a small amount of traffic that obviously tries to evade, go around that diversion and find its way through. And so far, I would say that I think we've got the balance about right, but we're continually monitoring that balance as we go through the scheme. In terms of the footpath widths, so the footpath widths are all compliant. I'm not sure exact footpath width that is being referred to, whether it's on the east side or west side. But if it's just
Roseford Road and Gilbert Road is very narrow in places, so I imagine it's on that side that Roseford Road is on. So
the footpath on that side of the road should all be between 1.6 and 1.8 meters wide. The only real pinch point that I'm aware of in the scheme is right down on Victoria Road, where the path is kind of slightly pinched by a signal pole, but even that is kind of compliant. I think there's a 1 meter gap between the signal pole and the fence.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that. But I think maybe part of the issue regarding the narrowness of the footpath on, I think, the eastern side between Roseford Road and Gilbert Road might be there's still street furniture like lampposts that are still to be reconfigured, and that might make a difference. And just very quickly, Paul, I know I've had quite a lot of comments about should there be further diversion signs at the junction of King's Hedges Road with Arbury Road, on the basis that potentially King's Hedges Road is a little wider and has more capacity all the way through to Milton Road. And I know that has an impact on King's Hedges residents. So I'm not saying that is necessarily the right solution, but that is those are some of the comments I've been receiving.
So we have, I've also had that point made to me. We've said that we will review that, but I'm very aware that at the start of the project, we held a joint LLFs with councillors represented from the whole area. And we specifically kind of, I don't know if we came to agreement, but it was set out that in working with kind of the traffic management team at the county council and other experts, we wouldn't signpost diversions within the city. We would only signpost the main diversion around the A14, because we didn't really want to encourage traffic, you know, to come through King's Hedges or Arbury Road. And we were very aware that, you know, we didn't want to show a preference between the two, so to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. If we are intending to start the Milton Road LLF at 7, I think we've got about 5 minutes or so just before. Perhaps the final 3 questions, David, on Histon Road.
Yeah, fine. I'm just going to scroll through them. A number of people have asked questions that have already been answered. So there's more questions about potholes and more questions about the Canterbury ramp, which I think you've already covered. Another one about the 20 mile an hour and being in favour of it.
So the potholes will all be addressed because the whole road will be resurfaced.
Yeah, I'm just looking through to see if there's a topic. There are a number of people saying that it's during the day where the diggers are moving around and cars are parking, they are blocking pedestrian sections, and that's causing people, and just asking the team to revisit that.
Okay.
Okay, and I've got a question. It's related to kind of abuse of the.
You've gone on. You went on mute, Mike. Mike, you're on mute.
Very sorry, I was on mute. I was saying I've got a question from residents about abuse of the inbound lane sometimes by vehicles parking, but specifically, dare I say it, about Domino pizza drivers. But I know you're aware of that, and we'll be looking to, well, try and move them on, dare I say it.
So in some ways, we are trying to be a little bit lenient because the most impact is obviously on the residents who are living along the road. Some have deliveries, the businesses have to continue. So in most cases, we will have been speaking to the individuals involved, and the workmen should ask them to park in a certain way. And where that is adhered to, then there isn't such an issue. It's where people just park randomly and completely block things off where we have an issue, and then we'll try and talk to them and avoid that happening again. But in a lot of cases, we are actually communicating with the people involved and trying to get them to park in a position that works.
So just to say that again, there are quite a lot of questions, Paul, that you've already covered about the diversion of traffic, the impact on Arbury Road, the impact on King's Hedges residents and things like that. But there's particularly here from Councillor Sargent, who was just questioning whether there are diversion signs actually on the A14.
So yeah, there are diversion signs on the A14, and we have specially printed larger signs on the to be placed on the A14. One of the issues we do have is that Highways England keep removing our signs, and so I've just had a report last night that Highways England have removed our diversion that takes people coming westbound off onto Huntingdon Road before they arrive at Cambridge, before they arrive at junction 32 even. And so they've just been busy reinstating that diversion route. So it's really frustrating. It's been taken to a kind of higher level within the companies that deal with traffic management, because you know it's causing quite a lot of grief that these signs keep getting taken away. The other thing that we have been utilising on the A14 is the VMS, which are the digital signs that have been put up. That they're not on constantly because Highways England policies don't allow us to keep the sign up for any longer than a 2-week period. But I'm looking to have them put up again before the stay-at-home order from the government is lifted, so that, you know, in anticipation that we'll get more people on the road when we put that particular date.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Sargent, do you want to quickly come back, and then we better move on to Milton Road, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happens to these signs, Paul, but every time I drive down the A14, they're not present. And I've now seen the what diversion signs there should be on the Histon Road flyovers, and they're not at all following the plans that were approved in August 2019. That would have actually diverted people back onto the A14 eastbound. But currently you're diverted either to Histon or onto the A14 westbound. I assume people are then expected to go down the M11 and come off at junction 12, the Barton Road. I mean, the signage is just very, very poor. So I can quite understand how lorries are ending up on Arbury Road, because you just haven't got the signage that was approved. And I've taken this up with Peter Blake, and we really must have action, because you're letting people down at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, Paul, I know it's very frustrating.
I've been up to the junction over the weekend with the contractor to review the signage personally. There are one or two particular signs that I've asked the contractor and the traffic management subcontractor to review and change as a result of the conversations. Most of the other signs, so you say there's a sign that diverts traffic back around the roundabout towards Histon. What that should be doing is, if traffic has gone past the diversion sign, we need to divert it all the way back around the roundabout and back onto the A14 eastbound. So there's a series of diversion signs around the roundabout. The TM company is satisfied and has assured me that all their signs are compliant, but still I've asked them to review a few specific signs and potentially change them, because I agree that a couple of them are confusing.
Well, I can just quickly say that if you look at Street View from last September, it's exactly the same signage as there was when I looked in February, and it doesn't agree with the plans that were approved in August 2019. So I think people have been let down in the north of the city, really.
Okay, well, we'll do our best, and I'm sure Paul will do his best to try and address that. And but the point's very well made, and I know it's been quite an issue about the signage and the fiscal diversion and potentially other signage that might be required. Anyway, it's gone 7 o'clock, and I'm conscious that we need to move on to Milton Road. And thanks very much, David. And I'm sure you'll be asked probably to put forward questions in the Q&A on Milton Road as well. But I'm going to hand over to Councillor Jocelyn Scutt to chair the Milton Road Local Liaison Forum. Thanks very much, everyone.
Mike.
Yeah, Claire.
Yeah, Anna, I think it's probably got her hand up for the same reason. We just want to stress the importance of signage that we're waiting for to stop heavy vehicles and large vehicles entering Canterbury Street and Benson Road. And this is very important because it's going to be an increasing problem on Histon Road. So I just wanted to make sure this was raised, because I've had my hand up for some time, and I think Anna's probably got a hand up for the same reason. Is that correct, Anna? Oh, do you want to unmute, Anna?
Yeah, I can see Anna.
Yeah, sorry, yes, Claire, that's absolutely correct. It's we've had traffic reversing on Canterbury Street and also not able to enter from Histon Road. And the traffic on Histon Road doesn't know how to enter the Benson area when it needs to during the construction of the ramp, which has got to be rebuilt.
Okay, thanks, Anna and Councillor Richard. I'm sure those points taken on board, Paul, and we'll look again at the signage. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks very much for those contributions. Sorry if I.
Perhaps Paul and Anna, yeah, Paul and Anna and I can pick this up after the meeting, actually, if that helps. If you need to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we do need to move, and apologies to any other sort of. for not being able to put your questions, but I wanted to make sure we have plenty of questions from members of the public who joined us. Anyway, I'll hand over to Councillor Jocelyn Scott, who's going to chair the Milton Road Local Liaison Forum. Thanks, everyone.
Good. Thanks very much, Mike. And what we'll do is we'll save the chat so that those questions are on board and will be taken into account. So now I'd like to hand over, as Mike Todd Jones said, I'm Jocelyn Scott, the chair of the Milton Road Liaison Forum. Mike's the chair of the Histon Road Local Liaison Forum. And I'd like to hand over to Paul Vanderbalk, who's the project manager of both projects, so that we can actually have his recitation about progress on Milton Road. Thanks. And if everybody would mute themselves, because there seems to be some sort of swishing in the background. Thank you. I muted myself. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Jocelyn. So I'm going to just quickly introduce, and then I'm going to hand over to Livio Martelli, who's the consultant working on Milton Road for WSP, the lead designer. So I'll just quickly introduce and hand over to Livio. So in terms of the work that's been going on Milton Road, we have almost got to the end of all of the detailed design work that we've been undertaking over the past year or so. To the point where we are just undergoing final negotiations with utility companies on what is known as the C4 process, which includes kind of coming to an understanding with the utility companies what works we need to do to divert any utilities, what we do, what they do, for example, and the costs. But subject to those, any final tweaks that come out of those conversations, we're pretty much there with the design. Olivia is going to go through some of the minor changes that we've made since the last time we presented the design. So some of the activities that have been ongoing include obviously the actual road 2D design, and then we've done a lot of work on a 3D model for the whole area, which is important in terms of working out how the road drains. Then all the signs and road markings reviewed, drainage design, landscape design, traffic signals and street lighting. But I'm going to let introduce Livio and let him take you through kind of a few slides. So over to you, Livio.
Thanks, Paul. If you can just share your screen with the presentation.
Okay.
That'd be great. Hi, and good evening, everyone. Livio Martelli from WSP. We've been responsible for the detailed design of Milton Road. As Paul was just saying, we just completed the 3D design, signs, markings, drainage, landscapes, signals, street lighting. We are just at the final stage of consultation with utility companies for the diversion works. In terms of the actual 2D design, it hasn't changed significantly since the preliminary design stage. So now I will just quickly run through the minor changes that we have carried out following the feedback from previous LLFs, as well as the normal design development that we had to go through. So starting from the shopping area near Aberbury Road, as you can see, we have had some challenges locating the inbound bus stop.
Livio,
due to yes.
Your microphone's crackling quite a bit.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. So can you if you just carry on, Paul? I'm just going to change it.
Yeah. So in terms of where Livio left us, one of the main changes that we've made is we've reviewed the bus stop location, the inbound bus stop location that is located near to the Arbury Road junction. So the current bus stop is located right near the junction. It creates an issue with inbound traffic having to basically it blocks the junction off whenever a bus stops. We had a lot of problems with the topography of this area in terms of finding another place to locate the bus stop. And in the last presentation, we had kind of resigned to leaving it where it currently is. Obviously, we received quite a few comments that we should re-look at this and have another try at relocating it. So WSP have done quite a lot of investigation works on this one and have come up with a design that allows the bus stop to be moved to the big, where in the location of the big arrow you can see, which is just to the south of Oak Tree Avenue. Should we hand back to you, Livio? Do you want to take back over, Livio? We can't hear you.
I wondered if the chair's still here to help you out, Paul. Jazz?
Don't worry, I'll continue until Livio comes back.
All right,
So
Paul.
I'll just move on to the next slide. So the next area that we've looked at in a bit of detail is the Elizabeth Way roundabout. And if you look very carefully, you'll see we've got a few very minor tweaks to the, if you look at the bottom of the picture, you'll see the crossings have been slightly revisited. And there's a few other various tweaks that we've made on various parts of the design. I might come back to this when Livio comes back, because WSP have also been working on the landscape design for the centre of the roundabout, but Livio has a bit more detail on that. So when he comes back, we can come back to this slide and discuss that. In terms of the final design for the area near Asham Road, basically we've just pulled out a slide so that we've got a visual of it in fairly good high resolution. We've obviously got the two bus stops here and kind of the road, and we've narrowed the road at this crossing point. So we've kind of we start the bus lanes each side so that we get the shortest crossing possible. And we've got a various landscape we're doing around this junction. And obviously the big tree, the question I get asked often is the big tree opposite the junction remaining? And yes, that tree is remaining. This is just to show the final design for Woodhead Drive. It's currently a very wide opening. We've obviously narrowed that down quite significantly. And we're removing the island on Milton Road in this location and extending the bus lane. And this just shows an example of kind of the Copenhagen crossing that we've got crossing Woodhead Drive. With King's Hedges Junction, I think last time we showed you, basically we're proposing a solution that is fairly similar to the solution proposed at the Warwick Gilbert Road junction on Histon Road, where we have a circular, kind of a gyratory for cyclists around, completely around the junction. And the crossing point for the pedestrians is in the four corners of the junctions. So this reduces the number of interactions between pedestrians and cyclists, just to make out where the crossing points are, which would be marked by mini zebra crossings. So at each corner you have a kind of a crossing point so that you can get from the footway to the crossing point.
Can I just interrupt, Paul? I think Livio's gone out because he was frozen and he's trying to get back in. So I'm not sure who can allow him to get back in, but I think he's trying to get back in. Sorry, you keep going.
Okay. So one of the key design considerations for this junction, and one of the main discussions we've had in the process since we last met as an LLF, is the capacity of the junction for traffic. And we've had to work really hard to try to keep its capacity at a level similar to current day capacity. We've dropped off a tiny bit, but we've got to keep it fairly similar so that we don't block everything up. But we're also looking to massively make a big improvement to facilities for cyclists and pedestrians at this junction. And so we've got a number of options in place, but what we're looking at is when we have the all green for pedestrians and cyclists, to get enough time so that cyclists and potentially pedestrians can cross two arms of the junction. And when the junction is commissioned, we will look to review to see how that's working. Obviously, it's something that can be quite easily changed. We can change the lengths of the crossing times after the junction has been commissioned. We can tweak it and make sure it all works, but that's kind of one of the design aims at the moment. Right, here we start to get a little bit more technical. So on the map, you can just make out kind of the locations. This map represents the different drainage solutions that we've got in place in the design along Histon Road, Milton Road, sorry. And different areas of Milton Road have got different characteristics. So we've had to come up with a number of different solutions. Kind of the main solution of interest is kind of represented in the greeny blue on the map. And it's the area between Arbury Road and King's Hedges where we're proposing the swales. So these will have dual function in that they'll provide drainage for the road, and also provide a place where we can plant the trees to enhance the environmental aspects and the visual aspects of the area. And we're also looking for a third, another impact will be that due to the kind of the shape of the swales and the kind of the curbs, we're hoping that they'll make it a lot more difficult for vehicles to park on the verges. We've got a technical slide here showing some of the solutions we're adopting where trees are planted in hard landscaping. So you'll see we've got like a permeable brick design, and the area around the tree pit is kind of differentiated there. And these are the kind of materials that we're looking at in the area between Gilbert Road and Asham Road on the west side of the road. A technical diagram here showing what needs to go on under the road in order to under the footpath, sorry, in the cycleway, in order to put the crates in that are required for all the routes. So there's going to be quite extensive underground works when we install all of these trees and footways. So then we can come back to any specific areas that people want to see when we get to the questions, but I'll just run quickly through the programme. So as I mentioned before, we're looking to finalise the utility consultation and the C4 process very shortly. That will enable us to then get on with finalising the business case, and we're going to also rerun the modelling in order to get an up-to-date version of the modelling for that business case. We then need to undertake the traffic regulation order process, which involves working with the County Council, who will run the TRO consultation for us. We need to undertake the second road safety audit and respond to any queries that are flagged through that process. Then I need to undertake the contractor procurement for the scheme. And once I've got a contractor on board, we can finalise the construction management plan. But with the construction of Milton Road, we envisage that while it is probably, there will be more construction works than for Histon Road, but we envisage that it won't have such a big impact on traffic due to the fact that in most places on Milton Road, we've got the width to enable two-way traffic flow throughout most of the construction that we undertake. Obviously, when we work at the junctions, there'll be some impact that we need to mitigate. but for most of Milton Road, we will be looking to keep the two-way flow. So that means we won't have to put diversions in place, etc., etc. In terms of the programme, kind of this has been set out now, and we're looking to go to the executive board for an executive board decision in early 22, with construction starting in April 2022 as well. So this gives us a bit of gap between completing Histon Road later this year and the starting construction on Milton Road. And I'm happy to take any questions around that programme kind of when we get to that stage, Jocelyn. What I would ask, Olivia, come back here. So we also have Arta Malecki here, who's also lead designer on Milton and Histon Road. So did I miss anything there, Arta?
Not really. Hello, everyone. It's Arta Malecki. I'm the lead designer from WSP. We've done also some tiny tweaks in the areas where we have really narrow pinch points. We widened some of the cycle lanes. Especially in the northern sections. So there was small tweakings really by 100-200 mil. We haven't changed anything as well. So those which already been presented, those only the changes compared to the previous drawings we upload to LLF. So everything else stays actually exactly the same. The majority of the work has been done with the 3D design and actual drainage strategy to confirm the actual requirements and ensure that we're not going to have a standing water on Milton Road.
One other thing I forgot to mention is, which is a response to a previous question from one of the LLF members, is that Arta has also looked at tweaking the design for road, is it? Not Ocean Road, Hurst Park Avenue. So where Hurst Park Avenue meets Milton Road, we've tweaked that in relation to a couple of comments we received previously from Mike.
Right. So do I understand it that we're ready for questions now then, Paul? Is that the situation?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay. Now there's a question for Richard Swift, and he's asking that the LLF should make clear its support for there to be no delay between completion of the Histon Road project and commencement of the Milton Road project. But I will come to other further questions so that we can deliver them so that you can answer 2 or 3 together. That came before the Histon Road, so I'm sorry, I'm just going through to find. So there have been a large number of questions about potholes on Milton Road, and a question as to whether it's necessary to wait for the potholes to be, for the project to commence, for the potholes to be fixed, or whether the potholes can be actually fixed before. Perhaps if you don't mind answering those 2 questions, because I know that there are a large number of questions about the timing, and I'll go through the list of questions because it's difficult to divide them between what was before Histon Road and now Milton Road. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, so with regard to potholes, I would strongly suggest that they are reported on the County Council's defect reporting tool, which can be found online either through a Google search, or we can provide the link in the chat somewhere. But in the meantime, I would suggest that if there are any significant potholes, they should be reported so that the County Council can kind of assess and fill those that are required in the meantime. And there will be some that have appeared over this winter that will urgently need sorting out.
Right. Question. Where will delivery drivers be able to park in the stretch between Arbury Road and King's Hedges Road? 2, who and how will maintain the grass swales, which will be cut frequently by driveways? And then there's a question about an extremely narrow cycle lane section north of Lavelle Road by Seeley's Court, caused by the extension of the bus lane further south than it currently is today. The footway is also very narrow at only 1.5 m, and there is a driveway crossing over this very tight space, adding another hazard. Those were 3 questions. Thanks, Paul.
So delivery drivers will either be able to pull into the driveways of houses, as they currently sometimes do, or park in, or stop in the carriageway to load and unload. So we'll be looking to put double yellow lines up and down Milton Road, but that doesn't mean you cannot stop to load or unload unless other loading restrictions are put on, which we don't intend to do. The second question, just remind me, Jocelyn?
About the maintenance of the swales.
We'll be working with the City Council in developing the design. The maintenance is currently undertaken by the City Council and will continue to be maintained by them. We're looking at putting planting the swales with kind of resilient grasses that don't need cutting as regularly as the current verges do, so to help try to reduce the maintenance burden.
Right, and then the narrow, extremely narrow 1 metre cycle lane section, Seeley's Court to Lavelle or Lovell Road, and the footway is narrow at that point.
So this is an area that Arthur was alluding to earlier, where he's addressed as well as he can this area to ensure that we have compliant width of footpath and cycleway in that area.
Right. So now there's some questions about Hurst Park Avenue to the Milton Road junction. And also that there seem to have been some tweaks to that area, and what are those and why? And also, will the parking spaces on the north side of Milton Road be removed? That's the parking spaces near Asham Road. Thank you. Paul, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, pressed the wrong button. With regard to Hurst Park Avenue, it was pointed out to us that there was a slight error in the previous design. So the footpath was truncated, basically hit a piece of grass verge. So we've just tweaked that to ensure that the current line of the footpath carries on to Milton Road, and we've moved the verge so it doesn't conflict with the existing footpath. So it's a very minor tweak, which we can share with this design, but it's pretty minor really. It's just basically swapping over of a bit of verge and footpath.
Right.
And the Seeleys, I missed the second question, sorry.
Have you dealt, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this. Have you dealt with the Seeley and Lavelle or Lovell Road question and the narrowness of the footpath? You've dealt with that one?
That related to the previous question as well. That's the same area.
Goodo. Then it's about Hurst Park, the changes and tweaks to the Hurst Park Avenue, that bit. And then the next question was about the parking on the side of Milton Road. Remember that there's parking spots on the footpath of Milton Road near Asham Road, and whether they're going.
So all of the parking on the verges will be going on Milton Road. There won't be any parking spaces left on the verges once the scheme is complete.
Yes, so there's now a question that follows on from that, because the LLF did pass a resolution to mitigate loss of parking on Milton Road. Residents currently relying on on-road parking, that is those living at the Elizabeth Way Highworth Avenue roundabout, have been assured that during consultation that they will be able to park in nearby side roads if parking on Milton Road is removed. Currently, residents on the south side of Milton Road are part of the triangle parking area and not part of the north side parking scheme, that is Asham. It includes Hurst Park Estate, but of course there isn't residents parking in Hurst Park Estate, it's only in Asham. There is unambiguous data that the triangle scheme would not have adequate space for residents if this were to become a residents parking scheme. This is really an issue about the fact that what happened was that Asham came into effect, Asham residents parking, Hurst Park Avenue, Hurst Park Estate and the Elizabeth Triangle area was supposed to be incorporated in that, but for various reasons that didn't happen. So the question really is about what can be done for parking in that area. It may really be a question for the County Council, Paul, but there was agreement that there would be mitigation for the parking problems that would arise in Milton Road, particularly on that on the Elizabeth Way roundabout, but also further along.
So I would say that the whole parking issue has kind of dropped off the radar a little bit through the past year, if I'm honest, due to probably the fact that we haven't been meeting up so regularly and all the issues that we've been going through this year. But it's one that needs to be addressed. I always envisaged that the area of Milton Road that linked well with the Benson, is it the Benson area of residents parking? No, not Benson. What am I talking about? Getting confused between Histon and Milton. The Asham residents parking zone is in place. So the areas of Milton Road that are adjacent to that, I think we agreed we would review the parking on Milton Road with a view to perhaps, if we can, incorporate those houses on Milton Road into the Asham residents parking zone. So there's one option. As we go further up, obviously the residents parking zones were never implemented. So residents on Milton Road are perfectly free to park within Hurst Park Avenue or any other side roads that don't have the residents parking zones. Yeah. But if the residents parking zones do ever happen, then they should probably include, or we will need to look to include residents on Milton Road who require a parking spot within those zones.
So a reversion to the original plan, which was Hurst Park, Asham and the Elizabeth area all in together. There's been a question back on the Sealy area, and can we please have more of an exposition as to how that is to be addressed? Just a sec, sorry, I'm just going to, could there be some more details how Sealy's Court area has been addressed? And also we've got Livio back as on board, so Livio can also come in to answer. And then there's a statement here that the photo of the grass swales may not illustrate the situation where these will be used. The photo showed long length of mown grass. Is it fair to say that there actually will be pockets of unmown grass between the driveways? Will this be a bit more unsightly than the photograph that was displayed?
So, Livio, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to, if you can you share the Sealy's Court area and talk about it? I'll just give Livio a little bit of time to prepare that.
Yeah.
In terms of the swales, yeah, obviously there are shorter and longer lengths separated by driveways, but the way it's been designed is so that it can be maintained, and that's been a kind of a critical feature of all the representations that we've had from the City Council who maintain that we must design something that they can fairly easily maintain. Whether they do that with a ride-on mower, or perhaps they will, in some cases, they use a strimmer where the area is slightly smaller, but that they obviously have a commitment to maintain, everywhere along that length.
Right. Now I can see that I've been unfair because I've been ignoring the poor blue hands. So there are 4 blue hands I can see from panelists, and there are 2 from attendees. So perhaps if we do Councillor Ian Manning, Councillor Claire Richards and Councillor Mike. Oh no, I should include Charles Nisbet so that and then Mike, you can come after those 3 are finished. So if we can have Councillor Manning, Councillor Richards and then Charles Nisbet, so that we're not just advantaging all the councillors.
Apologies, Chair, mine was a legacy hand, so I missed my question, sorry.
Okay.
Mine was
historic
as well.
Okay. So was yours historic, Mike, or was that the real?
I'm not a legacy hand, thank you.
All right, so we'll have Charles then. And what about the 2 attendees? Unfortunately, I can't see who they are, but there are 2 blue hands for attendees. Are they able to be given access to speak? Who am I asking?
We've got Alison Wilson first, so I'll just allow her to speak now.
Okay, so if Alison goes first, and we'll come back to you, Charles, just if we can have the attendees and then come back to the panelists. Thank you. Thanks, Alison.
Sorry, I have no question. I haven't indicated anything.
Oh, I see. Sorry then. But now it's gone up to 3 in the attendees. Well, perhaps we'll have Charles while that's been sorted out. Please, Charles.
Thank you very much. We did submit questions right at the start when we asked for the LLF to be set up, and some have been covered, but not all that many. As regards the potholes on the road and the state of the road, it would be simpler actually if people reported where there weren't potholes. It is extraordinarily broken up and dangerous. If we're really, when we readdress the question of timing, if we're going to have to wait until next summer, that's summer 2022, then the road will have had a fortune spent on it, plugging holes. So the pothole issue is real and serious. But you're going to return to the timescale.
Yes.
The verges, the swales, I do like the idea of them, but we're going to have some physical method of preventing people driving over them. You look at what's the state of the verge outside 185 Milton Road now, which is having major building works done. And when they want to park a truck on it, they park a truck on it. And it's completely torn up. So there'll have to be some method of physically protecting those verges. And we also asked a question about the method of separating cycle and pedestrian paths along the side of the road. So could we have an explanation about how that's to be done with a system that isn't going to tip cyclists off?
Right. Now that was 3 questions. So perhaps, Paul, if you answer those 3, and then we'll have Councillor Jerry Bird, then Councillor Mike Sargent, and there are 2 attendees with blue hands. I can't see who they are, but if we can organise to have them come in so that they can ask their questions. So Paul, if you don't mind responding to Charles first. Thank you.
Regarding the potholes, Charles, I think it might need a physical inspection of the road, so I'll arrange for well, I'll probably come out myself with maybe someone else to actually inspect and see what needs to be done and come up with a plan, because obviously we don't want to be spending a lot of money just fixing potholes, as you say. It would be more beneficial to spend it on the actual scheme itself. But the only way I can do that is to say, come on site and actually look at what the problem is. Physical barriers, I'll take that away to the design team. I don't know, I don't think I'll be able to give an answer now, but we'll have a look at it and see if there are any options to protect the verges. And in terms of the cycleway and footpath, so going back to my presentation, so I need some water. What we propose is to take a solution where we create what's called a forgiving curb between the cycle path and the footpath. So basically we take a a standard curb and we install it laid on its side, so it provides a very shallow angle between the path and the footpath, enough height difference and definition to allow users with impaired vision to find that line, but shallow enough to stop any cyclists from hitting it and falling off their bikes. And it's a solution that has kind of been promoted to us by CamCycle, and we've obviously researched and looked what people are doing in other places. But we think it's important to have that definition and that line between the cycle path and the footpath. And we've been looking for a way to provide that without creating a hazard. And I think this solution provides a good solution.
Right.
Well, let's address those three.
So now I see that we've got Simon Powell and then Richard Swift, and then we'll have Councillor Bird. So if we could do it that way so that the attendees who've been brought in, yes, I know Lillian too, but we'll have Simon Powell, Richard Swift and Councillor Bird, and then we'll come to the others. Please, Simon, you go ahead.
Hello. I've got one small comment and then a bigger question. The small comment was that I was one of the many people going down with their kids this morning down Milton Road to the school. So I'm glad to hear that the scheme's been delayed a bit, because we're going to get another year of being able to go directly to school without having to do loads of road crossings, which we'll have to do in the future. But my main point is that something I've brought up repeatedly, that I just want some acknowledgement or response this about access to bus services, because I think this scheme's in violation of a lot of guidelines, and I'm bringing it up now when apparently the detailed design's already been done, because I also brought it up at the bus workshop. I've presented maps, sent maps to GCP. I've talked to people, tried to talk to a local councillor. I even emailed Paul directly after the last LLF when I didn't get a proper answer, but I just cannot get a response from anyone. So I'm talking about the area, Blackthorn Close, College Fields, George Nuttall Close, Alice Bell Court, all around there. I've got some numbers. There's about 660 properties here. So I reckon between 1,000 and probably 1,500 people who are reliant on the bus stops that are going to close, or the nearest bus stop. Now we need bus stops to be nearer to us. So I looked up the guidelines for bus stops, and the government Department of Transport guideline is certainly no more than 400 metres from a bus stop. Bus use goes down rapidly over 250 metres. And this is from their recommendation, which is particularly concentrates on disabled and infirm people as well. So I worked out that the majority of people in the northern part of Milton Road will be probably 150 metres extra from a bus stop now. So it's pushing people up to about 650 metres away from a bus stop, say in Blackthorn Close. So that is way above the recommendations. So basically it's taking away bus provision from people. And I think an extra bus stop should go in.
Lovely. Thanks so much, Simon. Now, Richard, please. Richard Swift.
Yes, my question is about timing. So I don't know how well it'll go down with the previous speaker, because I'd like to request that the Assembly makes clear its support for there to be no delay between the completion of the Histon Road project and commencement of the Milton Road project, as was originally planned a while back. So no delay between the Histon Road finishing and the commencement of the Milton Road starting.
Thanks, Richard. Good. That was to us as the LLF. And so now Councillor Bird. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Paul, two questions really. First of all, the bus stops. I have to agree with Simon. We could do with some more bus stops. are all the bus stops going to be floating bus stops? My question to you, as always. And the other thing, the map you showed of the King's Hedges, Milton Road, Green End Road, could you put that up again? Because it's just a question I want to ask you on it, if it's possible.
Would it be best to do that when we put the other Sealy up, or will we do it now, Paul?
Do it now if you want.
Good. Okay, thank you.
If I can find it.
And while Paul's doing that, oh, well, those were the 3 questions, weren't they? Is yours short though, Mike Sargent? Is yours a short question that you can get in now while Paul's putting the design up, the diagram up?
Yeah, okay. So I've been in conversation with the County Council and they have signed up a contractor to sort out the potholes on Milton Road. I'm hoping that it will be done in March. I'm chasing them at the moment. But my point was really around diversions. And I was a little bit unnerved by Paul tonight because all along we've been led to believe there wouldn't need to be diversions because Milton Road is largely 3 lanes. But tonight he seemed to indicate there will be some diversions. And I'm very worried about where those diversions will be. Are we talking about Green End Road? And,
Mike, I think you misunderstood me.
Well, sorry, but you did say, Paul, that
well, maybe it came out wrong.
Need to be diversions at some stage. Now, I'm particularly thinking, obviously, between Elizabeth Way roundabout and Arby Road, where it's only 2 lanes wide.
Right, well, could we stop there for a moment and go back to this design that's on the, perhaps if you answer Paul about the bus stops, because that was what Councillor Bird asked, as well as our attendee, and then you can pass on to this one, and then we'll come to the diversion question.
Okay, just so Livio can prepare, I'm going to ask Livio to cover the bus stop location question.
Right.
Just going back, this image kind of, it doesn't show the exact design, but it shows a representation of what I was talking about, the curb laid on its side to provide that kind of slope.
You're right.
And then we'll go. Councillor Bird, is this the diagram?
That's right. So you've got King's Hedges at the top, yeah?
No, King's Hedges to the top.
Okay, so this is Green End Road. This corner here between Green End Road and Milton Road is a very tight corner. Are you taking away some of the corner of the road to make this wider?
The best person to answer that will be Arthur, so can I just bring Arthur in to answer that?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yes, the shortest answer is yes. We narrow the carriageway slightly to make this corner bigger. I think we narrowed the carriageway over there approximately 800 millimeters. So we're not going to have this kind of black spot at the what is at the moment. So yeah, the shortest answer is yeah, we're widening slightly this point.
Okay, and can I just go back? So these dotted lines, are they going to be the crossing for people to use?
Yes, that's the pedestrians crossings. That's the area where the pedestrians crossing. The red next to it is where the cyclists are. We provided the crossing facilities for cyclists.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Thank you very much for that.
Good. So now we come back to the bus stops.
Yeah. So on Milton Road, the current most of the current bus stops on Milton Road are in fact kind of floating bus stops, but without any design gone into them because they're kind of on the carriageway side of the cycleway, so you have to cross the cycleway to get to them. So Milton Road naturally lends itself. The new design for Milton Road also keeps the cycleway separated from the carriageway by a verge. So yes, the bus stops will be floating bus stops technically.
Right.
Can I just ask one more question on that, Jocelyn, very quickly?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, Paul, there's a floating bus stops. Will there be a raised bit as the cyclists come towards the bus stop, because that's always the problem, because the cyclists are going fast, and if somebody's trying to cross that road to get to the bus, they're going to miss their bus.
So we'll be looking at raising, slightly narrowing, and zebras, mini zebras at those crossing points. Is that correct, Arthur?
Yes, we narrow it, the cycle lane, from 2 meters to 1.5, and we raising this to the, we're providing small ramp to slow down cyclists, and actually not even maybe it's not slow down, but make the awareness. That's where the people are crossings are located for the bus stops.
Good. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Now, while this is terrible, while Livio is getting the design up that he's going to refer to, could you answer, Paul, the question about the diversions where there seems to have been a misunderstanding? Thank you.
Yeah, so I thought I said that given the width of Milton Road, we would not envisage to have to make any diversions. So that is whatever I said. The position is I do not envisage the need for traffic diversions, because we can maintain two-way flow during the works. With regard to that section between Arby Road and Elizabeth Way roundabout, that is slightly narrower. I don't have the exact details of how we will address that, but one possible way is that it may be possible that there is enough width to maintain the two-way flow in that section, where once we've worked on some of the verges. It may also require that we do that section under signal, under signals. But I don't envisage. I'm not saying. I'm not a traffic management expert, but I don't envisage that we will require diversions.
Good. Now, I haven't forgotten the one about the delay, but there's the question about the bus stops. But could we get up on the screen the part of the road that the design that Livio is going to answer? And while that is coming up on the screen, perhaps, Paul, you could address the issue about the bus stops, and that some people want more bus stops. Is that possible or not? Thank you.
So the location of bus stops, we discussed it as the gentleman implied at workshops, at LLFs. We've discussed it with stakeholders, with Stagecoach, with a lot of people. And what we've looked to do is we haven't reduced the number of bus stops in the section between Arby Road and King's Hedges, but we looked to pair them up, because at the moment they are kind of spread in a strange way. So following all that consultation work we did with the operators, we've looked to pair the bus stops up and provide a fairly even spacing along that stretch of road.
Good. Thank you. Now, while Livio is explaining this, we haven't forgotten that we have Lillian Rundblad and Michael Page, and we need also to address Richard Swift's question about no delay, please. So, Livio, you go ahead. Thank you.
Where are you going? Who's driving this?
You're muted, Livio.
Yeah.
I suggest while you're in this location, just stop at Hurst Park Avenue, which is just on the screen below. So the change, so basically the only thing we've done is the footpath on the, as you approach Milton Road, we've just moved a small bit of verge to the side to allow the footpath to continue onto Milton Road. But it's a very minor change.
Thank you.
And now if we go to Seeley's Court, which is to the north of the scheme. Back one. Arthur, do you want to cover this? Or Olivia?
I'm happy to cover this one. Basically, in the previous design, we had 1 meter pinch point, and that's what we actually amend this one. The issue here is with the property boundaries to the west, to the top of the page. We rearranged this area slightly, and to address this issue, we widened the cycle lane to 1.2 meter at this location. Actually narrow it to 1.2 meter, and we narrow also the footpath to absolute minimum, which is 1.2. We could potentially go even to 1 meter for this section, but we just space the space evenly. And because it's on the approach to where the cyclists are expected to rejoin to a carriageway, we don't see this now as an issue. This area will be flat, flush, so it's not gonna be curb pit delimited cycle lane. So it will be small upstand up to 6 millimeters. So if the bigger bikes like kangaroo bikes or the trailer, they will still can potentially mount a little bit of the crossings and pass it safely. So that, unfortunately, this is only one location, this section where we can provide the crossing, and we are not able to do anything further. So we appreciate it's a little bit compromised, but it's still fulfilling all the requirements at the moment.
Thank you. Thanks, Arta. And now may we come to Lillian Runblad and Michael Page.
Well, actually, mine was also regarding diversions, and partly Paul has answered it. But my question was if it would, as they say, be both formal and informal diversions affecting Histon Road. So you have said that you envisage, but that was more about Mike Sargent's question, close to Milton Road things. Could you also say that there are no planned diversions or normal or informal planned for Histon Road, affecting Histon Road?
So I can't tell you exactly where every driver is going to go, but there won't. But as far as I can foresee, there wouldn't be a formal diversion on Histon Road when we construct Milton Road.
No signage along King's Hedges, no nothing would divert it to Histon Road.
No formal diversion. There will be roadworks signs to inform people that roadworks are happening, obviously, as we have to do that. But if we maintain two-way traffic, we don't need to divert traffic elsewhere.
Right. Now, Paul.
Thank you very much.
The other thing to say is it's quite important we maintain, a fairly good two-way flow, because we've obviously got quite an important bus route on Milton Road, so we want to, keep that going. But given the width that we've got to work in, I'll be working with a contractor to ensure that they put a plan in place that allows that as well as we can.
Keep my fingers crossed.
Right. So, Michael Page, please. Michael.
Oh, thank you, Chair. There have been several design changes we've seen this evening. First question is, Paul, will they be put online so that we can study them more carefully? Secondly, we haven't heard anything about the landscaping design for the roundabout at Elizabeth Way. That's quite an important issue for quite a lot of people. So can you tell us more about that, and can we see that also online? And thirdly, is there any real reason why the decision on proceeding has to wait for the executive board in the early part of 2022? Can't you go to the executive board at the end of this year to clear the path for you rather than wait until the new year? I've seen executive board meetings get postponed for various reasons, which could add to delay. Thank you.
Over to me, Jocelyn. Okay.
Yeah, Paul, sorry, over to you.
Right, so it's Livio is here, isn't he, somewhere? So I purposely left the roundabout until Livio rejoined. So
yes, if you could put up that slide again, Paul, please.
So we have developed the design for the center of the roundabout, and we've also made some changes. You can see from the left the previous design to the right the current design. So these changes were required in order to address the comments received from the Milton Road residents associations. So these changes include replacing the pleach trees with some natural shade trees, and incorporating some species that coordinate with the Milton Road proposals. We are also replacing the ornamental hedge with low-lying shrubs and ground covers to make it less formal. And also following the receipt of the GPR survey, which is a more accurate survey for to identify existing underground services, we had to move the position of some of the proposed trees to avoid the clashes with underground utilities. So this is in essence what we changed. But can I also point out that in terms of trees, we've got 117 existing trees that we're proposing to remove, and 192 trees, new trees proposed to be planted. So we got a net gain of 75 trees in total for Milton Road.
Right. Thank you then, Livio. Thank you. Now, we really need to come then to the question about whether there will be any delay. Our understanding, the original understanding was that there would be some crossover between Histon Road and Milton Road in terms of the projects going forward. And I'm aware from residents having contacted me that there is concern about delay. Richard Swift has expressed it, and I think Michael expressed it too. And I did draw up a possible resolution about the question of delay so that we can ensure that we keep tabs on what is happening and that there won't be any inordinate delay. If there are reasons for having a pause after the closure of Histon Road or the completion of Histon Road and the commencement of Milton Road. Now I can do share, but I'm not sure if I can get it up on this because it hasn't been very successful.
Jocelyn, before you go to the resolution, do you want me to provide some context?
If you would, yes, thank you.
Okay, so the whole issue of the programme and timing of the construction of Milton Road. So back in the day, Jocelyn is
sorry
that Milton Road was actually in advance of Histon Road in the programme when I took it over, but for some reason we've managed to progress Histon Road faster, and a decision was taken along the way to get the construction of that completed, which was probably a pragmatic decision because there would have been some delay to Histon Road otherwise. In developing the construction management for Histon Road, which involved the inbound closure, obviously there was a lot of representation, there was a lot of discussion with local people and with wider stakeholders from outside of Cambridge, council members, etc. Consultation with the road traffic management team at the county council, who basically give out the permits in terms of what we can construct. So a lot of discussion was had. There was a very clear view put forward in that time that the two projects should definitely not overlap. And I think there was also some representation that there should be a bit of a pause between the completion of Histon Road and the start of Milton Road. And at the moment, that position has been that has been listened to, and a position has been taken whereby we have introduced such a pause between the two projects. So in some ways, I would also potentially like to, to get Milton Road underway as possible. I mean, we've done a lot of work. There's been an immense amount of work with the LLF and with local residents, for example, with the design team. And so it's kind of feels good to keep the momentum going, and we don't want to lose. I don't want to lose that momentum, and I'm very keen to get started on the project. However, we have to take into fact that these projects have fairly severely impacted residents in the north of Cambridge. There is representation from wider afield that we have a pause between the two. There are some pragmatic reasons why we might introduce a pause. For example, it reduces the risk that any delay to Histon Road or maybe the Darwin Green Junction development has an impact on our programme start date. It allows us to complete any snagging works that develop on Histon Road without having Milton Road under construction and possibly impacting on that. And it also provides a small window of opportunity for the county council to undertake any emergency maintenance works or emergency utility works that have been on hold. And I know that there have been quite a few placed on hold while the Histon Road project has been underway. So there is a small window of opportunity. So there are some good reasons to have a pause between the two projects. I fully understand that many people are keen to get the project underway, as I am also. So I think what Jocelyn is proposing here is that we take the LLF needs to, aside from me, needs to take a view. But what I would ask is that just for support in setting out, getting the position firmed up by the board perhaps, and then ensuring that we keep to that position.
Right, so as I understand what you're saying, Paul, is that you see that it appears that there's a proposal that there be a 10-month hiatus between the completion of Histon Road and the commencement of Milton Road. The view, as I understand it, which has been expressed to me by some residents, is that not wanting to wait for 10 months. And I do think that, as you have acknowledged too, we've gone through an extremely long process, and residents have been at the ready, in a sense, for this to go ahead. Though there were misgivings at the outset, then the plan that the residents put forward has substantially been accepted. So I think what you appear to me to be saying is that there is good reason for a slight pause between the completion of Histon Road and the commencement of Milton Road, but nowhere near 10 months. And that it would be sensible of the LLF, if we are so minded to do it, to pass a resolution of this nature to make it clear to the Greater Cambridge Partnership Board that we do not want a delay that means that we're hanging about waiting for Milton Road to start, and we do want it to start in a timely manner. Is that correct, Paul? Am I articulating correctly or not?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that it's not 10 months is probably based on an old programme. So earlier on I said we would look to complete Histon Road realistically September, perhaps October. So October to April it's more like 6 months.
Right. So do other members of the LLF wish to speak on this issue? I've put up the proposed resolution here that has incorporated some changes that were accepted, and it's clear what the changes are. But perhaps people want to discuss it generally first, and then we could come to the resolution and see if people A, want to have a resolution of this type, and B, if they want to accept the red changes, and then see if they want to accept the resolution in these terms. But I think it's sensible if people can express their view, if they have a view about delay or no delay. I can't.
Yes, please.
Yes, good. Please go ahead. Yes, Charles, is it?
Well, I had my hand up. So
it is.
Oh, I beg your pardon. So I can't see hands. You see, perhaps you have Charles and then Jamie. Thank you. Councillor Dizel and Charles first. Sorry. Yes, Charles, you go.
Right. Yes, strongly in favour of such a resolution. Freudian slip. We really must get this thing moving. As you say, we've been hanging around a long, long time. We're organised. We think we're ready to go. And there is a pragmatic point that sooner or later the government is going to turn off the tap of money because of the immense expenditure for the last year. We don't want to get left behind and told, actually, sorry, we can't start at all. There's no money.
Right. Thank you, Charles. Yes, Councillor Dizel.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
I would echo Charles and I think your comments around the need for urgency in this. I did have a specific question for Paul, because Paul has mentioned several times that there is a desire for this delay and mentions of potentially some emergency work. I don't think you've explained specifically who has made that request. I just wondered, is this part of the GCP? I know Cambridge is so complex, it can be difficult to see all different moving parts, but is it the utilities companies? Who is it who is specifically making this request so that we're aware who we should be lobbying?
Paul.
So my director, this is a direction from my director who's come to a date, set out the position, and the representations have come to him via the Joint Assembly, via the County Council, I think through perhaps the Highways Committee, and I think that's specifically where they've come from. I can't name any names.
So this is, no, that's fine. So, but this is specifically therefore a GCP board position, which is where the resolution's therefore correctly directed as well, I think.
Yes, we need to say where the resolution, it is to the board, isn't it? The Greater Cambridge Partnership Board, that the resolution would be going, because they're the ones ultimately that have the power, don't they, Paul? Yes. Do you think that what we should do, I know that this is in a way, in one sense around the wrong way, but could we look at this resolution and come to an agreement that if the resolution is to go forward, and we'll have to go, we need to be able to see each other on the screen, but if the resolution is to go forward, are people prepared to accept the lines in the changes in red? That's the number one question. So read it to yourself and we'll come to that question when we can see each other. Number one question is, are people prepared to accept the changes in red? Number two, if so, are they prepared to accept the resolution as it would be, incorporating the red changes? And three is, if they don't want the red changes, are they prepared to accept the resolution without the red changes? So there are three questions that we need to answer. And so I'll stop sharing so that we can see each other and properly discuss it. I think we need to see each other on screen rather than have the words up there. So is there anybody else oh yes, I can see that Councillor Manning and Councillor Sargent have their hands up. So if we could have Councillor Manning and then Councillor Sargent, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with it. I'm fine with the reworded version. I'd happily second it as well, because we need a formal seconder, don't we? So, yeah, absolutely agree with it.
Good.
The altered version, to be clear. I mean, I'm not bothered either way, to be honest. But yeah, I think that the new one is better.
To make it easier, yes. And so now, Councillor Sargent, you want to speak too.
Yeah, I don't know quite how it's organised, Jocelyn, but the board are meeting next week, and I think looking at the timeline that was presented to us by Paul, there's quite a few things that need to be brought forward in order to get approval this year, as I think Michael Page said, so that the work can actually commence early in 22 at the latest. And I think rather than some of the wording we've got, I just think that we should be saying to the board we want it to start 4 months earlier than April, really. I think that's the important thing. I don't know what this reference is to safety issues. I'm not sure what safety issues are involved in this project, but perhaps somebody can explain what the reference to safety is all about. Thanks.
Did you want to speak on that, Michael?
Well, I just think that the whole project has to do with encouraging modal shift, active travel, and safety by means of separating cyclists from traffic and separating pedestrians and cyclists. I think that all contributes to safety. But I also agree with Councillor Sargent that sometimes it's simpler just to say, you know what, can't we just get this approved this year for an earlier commencement next year? Either would do. I mean, I'm happy with either of those.
Yeah, I think too that the remarks on safety fit in with what Simon Powell said, because Simon was saying that he wants ultimate safety in getting his children to school. Now, his point was that when the project's going on, he's concerned about his children getting to school. But the point is, when it's finished, then the children will be safe getting to school. So I'm agreeing that I think that we can say that there are safety elements in this. So I guess that the point is that rather than fiddle around with a resolution on screen, although I'm happy to do that, well, why don't we put the resolution back up on screen? Oh, there's another message. Let's see what this is saying. Somebody has found the whole consultation completely frustrating, Simon, and has put a lot of time over the years. At every stage, both the consultants and GPC have been defensive decisions already made. As a family without a car, relying on cycle lanes and bus services to get my family about, we don't seem to be a part of the target demographic of the scheme. I have to say, I've never owned a car. I've actually never driven. And I'm speaking for myself, and I realise there are lots of other people in the room, as it were, and people with concerns, but I work as a pedestrian and as sometimes cyclist, and I would see this project as one that is going towards a modal shift, as has been mentioned. Now, we actually want buses, that's true, and we need to therefore to be agitating and urging at the Combined Authority Mayor James Palmer, because ultimately he has control over the buses. But if this project goes ahead, it will make it easier for buses if there are buses to run on it. Why don't I put the resolution back up on screen? I've just got to find out where it was here. And then Mike Sargent, since you want to have something in here about 4 months, where do you want to put 4 months, just so that we can think about it? Soon as possible, yeah. A request, will we say when those are finalised? And
Sorry, Justin, I thought you were going to share it.
oh, sorry, is it not being shared? I beg your pardon. I thought I was sharing it. Wait a minute. Oh, damn it. I'm busy looking at it myself. I'm sorry. Share screen. Yeah, now it should be sharing. Is it shared now? No.
Not yet.
Oh, bum. What a nuisance. Yeah, I actually emailed it to somebody. I think I emailed, who did I email it to? I emailed it to, because you can put it up. It's just I'm having trouble because I had it up without any problems before. Just a minute. Share screen. I'm saying share screen. And here's the jolly thing. It should be up now, and it's not. Who did I email? I think I emailed it to you, Paul, and somebody else. So can you look at your email and get it up? Sorry, it's just that oh, here it is. Sorry, here it is. It's going to share. Yeah, there it is. Good. So can we put this thing about we don't want, what's your exact wording, Mike? You can see it, can't you?
Yeah, I can see it. Thanks, Justin. I mean, there's no specific requirements in there at the moment, and that's what I'm concerned about. So I think if we take out without delay and just say early at the beginning of 2022, which I think will give us enough contingency from the end of the Histon Road scheme. Trying to see if Paul's going to nod there, or we could say within 4 months of the ending of the Histon Road scheme, something like that. That is much longer than that, but then it's very specific.
Whichever is earlier. Oh, then we can just go on, can't we? Just a sec. Milton Road LLF is concerned to ensure that the Milton Road project advances at the beginning of 2022 or within 4 months of the ending of the Histon Road scheme, whichever is earlier, in order to, oh, we don't need in order, to bring about the much needed improvements set out in the detailed plans. Just a sec.
Justin, could I propose a dash either side of whichever is earlier, just to make it flow?
Yeah.
So the Histon Road scheme dash whichever is earlier dash to bring about the blah 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 blah. Is that all right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But then take out the next sentence completely, Jocelyn, because it's sort of duplication.
Yeah, right. In the detailed plans, yeah. Milton Road LLF is also aware that residents are keen, should we just say is aware?
Take out the word also.
Yeah. All right. Is aware that residents are keen to have the construction commence so that the planned safety improvements can be delivered sooner rather than later. To this end, the LLF will work cooperatively with the Greater Cambridge Partnership and request regular updates to ensure the project meets its target delivery dates when those are finalised. Is that okay?
Jocelyn, your first sentence, the project advances, I think you have to say advances to construction at the beginning. Advances, where does it advance to?
Or completion?
No, construction.
Oh, sorry, no, sorry, that's the Milton, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Justin, now if the last sentence actually adds any more. Sometimes less is
better.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, well, the only thing was that we need to say that we're going to cooperate, that we're not being, you know, argumentative or anything. Or do you think it's not necessary the way that it is?
No, because I think you're just building extras in. I think short and punchy is the best.
I'm happy to be argumentative on this one.
Okay, sooner rather than later. So to be full stop after later. Let me just do it. Oh, this actually is not bad, is it, that we can do this? So Milton Road LLF is concerned to ensure that the Milton Road project advances to construction at the beginning of 2022 or within 4 months of the ending of the, or completion, but anyway, of the Histon Road scheme, whichever is earlier, to bring about the much needed improvements set out in the detailed plans. Milton Road LLF is aware that residents are keen to have the construction commence so that planned safety improvements are delivered sooner rather than later. Is that okay?
Well, it can be, it's fine.
Oh, do you think so? Shorter.
Okay.
You got your dashes?
I like R because it's more certain, isn't it?
It's a bit more direct. Yeah.
Wait.
Good.
B, I think maybe B. I'd go for a subjunctive.
Jocelyn, please can we stop this drafting in committee and adding subjunctives and the like? Drafting in committee never works properly. The hostage to fortune you put on this one here is the ending of the Histon Road scheme. That can be defined however it suits people. We actually want to get this underway straight away. The problem is that the concurrent activity, which was originally planned, things like the TROs, which can be going on while Histon Road is still having spades wielded on it, that doesn't seem to be happening. So Mike Sargent's putting advances to construction in is excellent, but I would get rid of the Histon Road scheme, which can be interpreted and when they finally finish painting the curbstones.
So what are you actually saying? That to ensure that the Milton Road project advances to construction, no, should we say no later than the beginning of the 2022 year?
That'll do.
No later than the beginning of 2022. To bring about the much needed improvements set out in the detailed plans. Milton Road LLF is aware that residents are keen to have the construction commence so that plan safety improvements are delivered sooner rather than later. I think it is good to have that last sentence, because one of the things that was in the ether was the suggestion that residents don't want it to start soon, whereas I think we do want it to start soon so that it will be finished sooner, because we want our nice road without the potholes.
Okay, what about will be instead of are?
Oh, seriously, I think we're all clear what it is. It's 20 minutes, 5 minutes after 8. On a serious point, Jocelyn's done very well chairing this meeting, but attendees are dropping off and are complaining. I think we're all clear what it was. Can we just agree it and vote on it, please?
Okay. So
sorry to be grumpy, but
no, that's all right. Yeah. So is everybody happy with this resolution, that it goes forward from the LLF to the Greater Cambridge Partnership next week? We can get it next week.
Please.
Good. Is there anybody who dissents? No. So it's passed then. So I say by acclaim. I shouldn't have a capital letter, but anyway, there you go. Stop share. Good. So here we are. So what we should say is thank you very much to the attendees for coming. Thank you very much to all the panelists that it was, and also, of course, thank you to our great consultants and project managers and project officers, and a member of the an attendee wanted us to say specifically thank you to Paul for handling very well the difficulty that arose with the IT, and thank you also to, who was it that got us all in at the beginning and solved the problem of us all coming in with identical names. So we should say thank you for it. Was that you, David, or was it?
It was Tom who's looking after the IT tonight.
Good.
Can I add a thank you? And it's actually a thank you to Jocelyn, because without Jocelyn's extra email containing we all came in as Jocelyn. We were all Jocelyn, Jocelyn. But actually, if it hadn't been for that, I know we were joking about it, I wouldn't have been able to get in at all. None of the other links worked. So thank you, Jocelyn, for sending that extra email, because you were saying, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. No, I'm grateful.
Good. Thanks so much. Good. So are there any final words that anybody would like to say, or are we now saying we'll forever hold our peace until we have the next LLF, which we hope that we will have before too long at the commencement of the project, or before, in order that we can make it very clear to the Greater Cambridge Partnership that we are on the job, and we are seeking to ensure that they are on the job and that they will allow Paul and his team to be on the job. So,
Jocelyn, can I just say one thing?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, really, it's just a quick thing. Just to say thank you very much to all the officers for what they've done. It's been a hard time for a year now, and I just appreciate all the work you're doing, guys. So thank you very much.
I think, Jerry, it's been a lot longer than a year, because I think that, didn't it? It's actually started when I represented West Chesterton. So that must have been before 2017.
No, I was actually saying about the last year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, with the COVID. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I beg your pardon. Yes. Okay. So thank you so much, very much. And thank you to all from the Histon Road project and all from the Milton Road project. I think that in the end, we've had a very productive meeting, and let's hope that the attendees who are dropping off think the same. Thank you. Now.
Thank you, Jocelyn. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, good. See you. I think we're going. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
See you later. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just stay on and have a word with poor old Paul. Oh, thanks so much, Paul, and thank you, David, because it was all a bit, but anyway, we got through it. Do you think it was all right?
I mean, just wait for the members of the public to leave, Jocelyn.
Yeah.